All right, it's 12 o'clock on the dot. Welcome everybody to the Johnson County Aging in Place webinar series. Today's July 8th, and today's webinar is Working with Contractors to Modify Your Home. I'm Jeff Kellbach, Aging Specialist with Johnson County Livable Communities and Johnson County Social Services. We're going to go through these slides here. I don't know how I did this before, but I've apparently gotten worse every month that we've done this, folks. How to use Zoom. I need to do this myself, but we are recording today's webinar. Ty Coleman from City Channel 4 is wonderful enough to record these and then rebroadcast these. We are also streaming live on Facebook through the Johnson County Social Services page in theory. Maybe that's not happening because it looks like I got an error over there. And then some Zoom functions for you. Chat, questions and answers. There's no poll today again. We just did that the first time. If you could, questions best going in the Q&A or the questions and answers section. Scott Hawes will be assisting us with getting all the questions. If chat is easier for you to put in questions, Scott will be monitoring that as well. And if I get Facebook figured out, it'll be on there as well. Our housing action team is the group that's putting on this webinar series. The housing action team, big focus for them is trying to make housing affordable, accessible, including universal design, incorporating home safety, having some availability and housing options. The major members of the housing action team is Johnson County Livable Communities, the Iowa City Area Association of Realtors, and the Greater Iowa City Area Home Builders Association. I decided to go ahead and update our picture for this month. It's been a while since we've had an updated image, and I just wasn't able to figure out how to update everybody's bodies onto there, so just some heads. Scott there is our fearless leader in the middle, front, center. And to let you know, we have our future webinars, August 12th, Gadgets to Make Life Easier, September 9th, actually September 9th, that's completely wrong. Boy, look at me, that's estate planning. I know that's estate planning. I've got some old material that I'm using. And then October 14th, housing options when deciding to downsize. You can watch old webinars or forums at that link below, and I'll send this out to everybody who's registered through through Sign Up Genius. Without further ado, I'm gonna turn this over to our three presenters today. Scott Hawes is the chair of the Housing Action Team. GT Karr and Andy Martin are members of the Greater Iowa City Area Home Builders Association. And I'll just turn it over to you, gentlemen.
All right, I will start out. Thank you. My name is GT Karr. I own Sueppel Siding and Remodeling, and I do remodeling here in Iowa City, just like Andy does. We're going to try and keep this pretty low key, so I'd encourage some interaction. If you guys can get questions to us, that would be fantastic. But we're going to kind of go through working with contractors and when you remodel your home and what to expect. Both Andy and myself are certified aging in place specialists, and we've got lots of years of experience. So hopefully we can kind of guide you through some things and start that process. If you want to switch the slide quickly. Andy, do you want to do a brief introduction? Sorry.
Sure. I'm Andy Martin with Martin Construction. And like GT said, I'm a remodeler. We do a lot of work in the area, and it ends up being that people want to stay in their homes longer and longer as time goes on.
Right, perfect. I think to piggyback on last year's presentation, we did some modifications that you can do in your home to make it a little bit more user-friendly as you age in place. And I was looking through my notes, and the biggest thing is doing your due diligence, and I think planning ahead. You know, before you need to hire a contractor, I think it would be great to ask your friends around, kind of see what they have to say. You're going to be spending time and money and resources in this. So the earlier that you can plan ahead and kind of check with people, the better. I'm just going to read the slide for those of you who can't read it. Due diligence. Do your due diligence before hiring your contractor. Price should not be the only factor when making the final decision on who you build your dream home with or remodel. Your home is where you spend most of your time, and you don't want poor quality construction or poor details. And kind of make sure that you take the proper steps before choosing your contractor. So do your homework. Next slide.
So there are a lot of ways to find a qualified contractor. As GT said, one great way is to ask your friends, your family members, coworkers, neighbors for referrals. And that is a really big thing, because if you know somebody who has worked with a contractor, they can give you information that is invaluable. It is also good to do your research with the organizations like the Better Business Bureau and the HBA. Typically, if people have had a presence long enough to join an organization, that is an excellent sign. And do they have the certifications like Aging in Place? You know, that's very specific to what we're talking about. And you do get a lot of great information in the process of getting those certifications. So they will be better informed than your average contractor. You can do research online. That's great. That tells you, you know, that it's a stable business, that they've taken the time and invested to get an online presence. And that is really important, especially in a business where that's maybe not the initial thing, right? The first thing you learn to do is swing a hammer. So if they've done the work to get an online presence, that means that they've been around, they're stable, they know what they're doing. So you can browse the websites and see what they've done. Pictures are a great way to see if they know what they're doing. It's a great way to screen out some stuff that way. And then it is a big important step to determine, you know, how big is your project? Do you need a contractor, or will a handyman suffice? If you're, you know, trying to put in a couple of grab bars or maybe a ramp, then a handyman, that might be in their scope, and that might be a quicker response time for you. But if you want to do a larger project like a bathroom or a kitchen remodel, that requires quite a bit of planning, and you'd really want a contractor for that.
Hey guys, I've got a question for you, and neither one of you may be able to answer this. So when people are doing their homework, what types of information should they really make sure that they're looking for and seek out?
I think that actually a lot of that is in the next slide, Scott, but
Okay.
why don't we follow that up, as I'm kind of ahead of you on the slide, and maybe Andy can interject if we miss something. You want to switch it for us, Jeff? Perfect, thank you. So questions to ask and why to ask them. As I look through these, we'll go through them one by one, but I see questions on here that kind of lead to the horror stories that everybody's heard of when they remodel. And so I think it's not just one or two questions. It's trying to get an overall picture of how the contractor is going to approach it and what to expect. So questions to ask and why to ask them. Are you a licensed contractor in the state of Iowa? That is one initial qualifying item that you would need. I will admit it's not super difficult to get licensed in the state of Iowa. Very minimal. There's not a lot of testing requirements, and the fee is very, very nominal. You probably spend more at a drive-through. But that is one initial question. And where are they operating out of? Are they local? And are they insured? So, you know, there are a lot of companies that might do business in a state or a region. I think personally, and I think Andy would agree with this, when you're in your own home, it's a pretty personal experience, and I'd like to be able to be accessible to the client. So I think it's important that they are local, and you can kind of find out, hey, where are we sending our checks to? Do you have an office? Do you have a local presence? The other is, next one's a big one. Are you insured? So as you look at having someone in your home, it's super important that the contractor and any trade partners that they have are insured, because otherwise it can be a dicey situation if somebody gets injured. So we don't have a lot of clients that ask for this, but I would encourage everybody listening today, if you have somebody that you're looking at doing work in their house, ask them for proof of insurance. That's something that's completely within your rights. You just ask the contractor, hey, I need a proof of insurance, and you know, we can just ask our agent to put your name on it and send that. That's a super great way to qualify somebody. And then how long have you been in business? Under what names? That can be a Google search and those types of things. And yeah, I think it's probably more likely that a company that's been around for a decade or two is probably has a little better track record. But if somebody's new, you can still ask these other questions and find out if they know what they're doing. References are a good one. I think we mentioned that before. I like to, it's tough right now in the COVID world and pictures are great, but it's super nice to be able to see somebody's work. I like the unsolicited reference. Somebody asks us for references, I'll give names, but I put a lot more stock in, hey, if so-and-so is happy with them, that's a good way to find it. And have they done a project like this before? You might have a contractor that's great at bathrooms, but has never done an addition or has never done an aging in place retrofit. So those are different skill sets. So that's something that, you want to make sure that that's in their scope of work. Another biggie is how to handle change orders or extras. So if we give a quote, a change order would be anything that deviates from that quote that would be an additional cost. The right way to do that is to have that in writing but before you do the work so everybody knows what they're doing. That can be challenging on a small job or a remodel, but I would encourage that question be answered, and hopefully the contractor you choose has a process so you know what you're going to be spending and when. Do you have trained employees or do you have subcontractors who do the work? And if they are employees, are they covered by work comp? So the workers' compensation insurance is what we're required to have when we have employees work in your house. It covers them if they get hurt, those types of things. And that is a pretty substantial cost, but it's important to know if you have someone in your house that everyone's insured. And the best way to do that is ask for that proof of insurance from the contractor or the trade partners if they do sub it out. Little things that we've seen in the past or heard horror stories on working hours. I can think of lots of examples where we may be working in rentals where students are expecting us to maybe work from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and those are the hours they want to work. So for both the contractor standpoint and the client standpoint, I think a good expectation of, hey, what is your normal working hour? If you have kids at home or you don't like to get out of bed or you need to take a nap, know when you're going to have some commotion going on at your house. So that's a good thing to ask before you find out the hard way. The next column over, we've got scheduling questions. I think it's always great to ask once you have a defined scope of work, how long do you think the project's going to take? When do you think you can start it? What are some potential issues that would affect the schedule? Those are good things to know going in. And if you don't have a great answer from your contractor on that, that might be an indication that, hey, there's a little bit more to figure out and you need some more questions asked. Do you provide a quote in writing? I think it's super important, both as a remodeler and as someone who has hired others to do work in his home. Having a quote on paper that defines the scope so everyone's on the same page for what you're doing is super important. There's nothing worse than getting to the end of a job and having two different memories of what the cost was and what you were contracted to do. So having it in writing is a great way to do that. And then back to the change order question. If there are additional costs that come up in remodeling, which can happen, I'm thinking of the last bathroom we did where we opened it up and found out that there were some things that weren't done to code and we had to meet that. So how do you address that in a fair way for everyone? And who's responsible for permitting and scheduling? As a general, we typically pull the permits. We like to do that and we schedule the inspections. There's certainly situations that I've heard of the homeowners pulling the permits and they're responsible for it. But again, kind of defining everyone's roles and what they're supposed to be doing beforehand is a lot better than kind of getting in the car and asking for directions after you're lost. So I think that's a good way to do it. Material selection and what you're using and who's responsible for what, that should be in the quote. It should be very clear what materials are being spec'd, how they're being installed, and if you do change materials, does that change the cost, those types of things. And then back to kind of COVID questions, which we will also deal with. There's going to be some disruption and mess and potential access issues So really kind of asking the contractor how they deal with cleanup, how they deal with access, the hours they work and be on site. Bathrooms is another fantastic question. I know Andy and I usually do a secondary, porta potty thing, so we don't have to deal with that. But you certainly, there's lots of people that don't do that. So kind of hammering that out so you know that there's not any surprises there. And then on the latter end of the work, as you get into, hey, what's the warranty? Who's going to back up what? If you do a bathroom, how long is the warranty on the plumbing or the material? Those are good things to just kind of walk through with your contractor. And payment schedule. You certainly don't want to give all the money up front. From a contractor standpoint, I certainly don't want to do a $100,000 job and not get paid for a year and a half until it's done, after it's done. So really working through the process, understanding what your expectations are, what you'll need to do as a homeowner are super important. This goes back to planning ahead. This should be, hopefully you're doing your homework before you need to do the work. You're reaching out to contractors before you need to do the work and asking some of these questions. And it does take some work on the client's end. There's no doubt about it. So back to your original question, Scott, I think this is the thought process you should go through. And obviously, depending on the project, some of these questions are a little less relevant if it's just a set of grab bars. I still want to know if they're insured and who's doing the work and those types of things, but I don't know that we need a 16-week schedule for something that's going to take 2 hours. But just really trying to get answers to questions, and it's not a perfect process. I tell that to clients all the time. Remodeling is certainly not an exact science. So dealing with someone who can answer these questions and has contingency plans and has a track record is probably a fantastic way to approach it.
So as GT said, the first basic step for any contractor, whether they're a remodeler or a new builder or even a handyman, would be to get licensed in Iowa. It is a low bar, but it is a bar. So if you're dealing with somebody that's not a licensed contractor, that's a good sign that this is not their profession, right? This is maybe a hobby for them, and that's something to take into consideration. So you can always ask for the contractor's registration number, their full business name, and the county and city where they're registered, and you can go double check that with the Iowa Division of Labor. It's a really simple process, but it is pretty fundamental too. So it's a good bar to make sure you get over it. I think we can go to the next slide.
Yeah. So how to spot a scam. I'll go through these, but I think if I were to sum it up, I would just be alert and aware. And if something seems too good to be true, I would be suspicious. If you've got somebody that comes up to your door and offers you discounts, or I have materials left over and I need you to make a decision today, otherwise the offer's off the table. I'm not a big fan of those pressure tactics. To me, it's a lot of work to remodel. It's a lot of work to do something right in someone's home. I would say that, be patient. If you're getting a lot of pressure from somebody to sell you, I would probably be suspicious. Another one is only accepts cash, asks you to pay for everything up front, or suggests you borrow money from someone that they know. Again, not a great idea. And then what we have here is ask you to get the required building permits. I can think of situations where that would be appropriate. Again, we typically as a contractor would pull the permits, and I think Andy would agree with that. Yep. If there's any question on that, from a building permit standpoint, I know the city of Iowa City, Corrville inspectors, North Liberty, Johnson County, all of those building departments are fantastic at asking questions, and they really will give you an unbiased answer. So if you have a question on whether you need a permit, or one contractor's telling you do, one's telling you don't, rather than taking their word for it, I would just simply call the municipality and tell them what you're doing, and they'll be able to to walk you through that process as well. if you get, telling you your job is a demonstration or offer a lifetime warranty or long-term guarantee, I have no problem with the warranties and guarantees. But again, I don't like the pressure tactics of, hey, sign today and make sure that, we can use you as a model home. More obvious ones, I've already mentioned, the price seems too good to be true. If you're using quality materials and you have employees or trade partners that are doing a good job and know what they're doing and are licensed and insured, it's going to cost money to do that. If they don't have a local telephone number or they don't have an office and you find them when you do a Google search, or there's nothing at the state level for registration, that would be another red flag. If you don't get an offer in writing that you can sign that you both have and can kind of compare, make sure you're on the same page for scope, that's another red flag. No letterhead or company vehicles that are marked, and just kind of a two guys in a truck type of thing is probably something else you want to be a little suspicious on. And then certainly prepayments that don't make sense. I have no problem with down payments to cover materials, but that's all outlined in a contract and I can explain it. But that's why everything needs to be in writing. If you're paying for everything up front, that's where I think you hear the horror stories of that we read about every year, where somebody wrote a big check and never saw the guy again. That's not good. So I would be encourage everybody to be a little cautious. Make sure you ask the questions we already outlined before, and then, like I said, if it really seems too good to be true, and then I would be a little suspicious.
So there are a lot of things that can be done to a home, but there's several that are easy and affordable aging in place modifications. The things we really worry about with aging in place are falls, and there's a variety of ways to avoid that. So you've got your grab bars. One, they don't have to be everywhere, but when you want them, you want them. Getting in and out of, transferring it out of a tub, or from sitting to standing are the classic areas where you want those grab bars. Lighting is one thing that you think about more as you get older, right? So having good lighting is a great way to avoid all kinds of accidents, but particularly falls. Then having non-slip flooring is important. Also, just not having a variety of throw rugs around. So you want to have a flooring that's comfortable underfoot, so you don't have to have the throw rugs that can slip underfoot or they can catch your toes. Having a taller toilet is a very good one as well, since you just don't have quite as far to go, and it makes things a lot easier. And again, on the non-slip inserts, you can just add. There are a variety of good products that you can add to a bathtub or shower or right outside the shower that are, instead of a slippery surface, they are a good non-slip surface. Installing a handheld shower head is a big one, because it can make things a lot easier when you're inside the shower. Eliminating trip hazards can be a simple thing. Flooring transitions are a big deal. And if you can make those as smooth as possible, then it really does help. And simple ramps, and those are usually for one step or maybe two steps. But even a simple ramp to get into a house that's 3 or 4 steps up can be possible under the right circumstances, and doesn't have to be extraordinarily expensive. But a simple ramp can be a big game changer and can really make a huge difference for you. Heater lamp in a bathroom seems like maybe is more of a creature comfort thing, but it actually does really help, because it makes it so that you're not hurrying from one place to another, right? Trying to stay warm. So it can make a big difference in terms of both comfort, but then in just the practical things as well. Lever handles are ones that are, again, you don't have to necessarily change out the whole door, or you don't have to do a major modification, but it can make things easier. Another one that's not even really a contractor issue, but can make a big difference, is to have a small table next to a door, particularly whatever your main entrance to your house is, so that if you're coming up to the door and you have your hands full of things, instead of having to set it down on the ground, you can just set whatever it is on a table there, and that makes it safer and easier to get through the door at that point. A home monitoring system is relatively non-intrusive. It's not a major adaptation to your whole house, but it can make a big difference, along with the home medical alert systems. Those are kind of standalone projects that don't have a major effect on the house necessarily these days, because everything can be wireless. Widening doorways can make a huge difference as well. That can be a project that can either be simple or complicated, depending on the specific situation. The classic example for a difficult one is when you're in a ranch home, you've got that long central hallway and you've got the door at the end of the hallway. And it would be a real nice help to, if you're going to be in some kind of a chair, or if you have a walker, to have that door at the end of the hallway to be wider. Well, sometimes you'd have to widen the whole hallway to do it, so that one's not so easy. But in a lot of circumstances, it can be, again, a kind of a standalone project where you can get that extra 2 or 3 inches out of the door, and that makes a huge difference in terms of just being able to maneuver through that system, or through that doorway. And then shower chairs, again, is, not necessarily even a home modification. It's just an item that you can put into the shower. But instead of having to replace your whole shower to get that chair, you can make a really simple change, and it can make a drastic effect on your life. That's a good one in combination with the handheld shower head there too. It makes bathing a lot easier. So
Hey, Andy or GT, maybe you can answer this. I hear a lot of questions about products and specifically grab bars, or a lot of concerns about the products and grab bars making a home look like a hospital room. So what type of products are available that you can avoid that problem with?
Yeah, nowadays, most of the major manufacturers now make a variety of grab bars that are designed to match the other accessories in the bathroom, like towel bars or towel rings and that kind of thing. So they don't necessarily look like that standard institutional tube steel, but they are grab bar rated. And they'll even make accessories like the toilet paper holder or the towel bar or the towel ring that are grab bar rated as well, or a soap dish in a shower. So that, those are classic things that as you start to fall, you just grab for whatever's there. And it is a big bonus to have that thing stay on the wall and hold you up instead of making the fall worse.
And I would add, there are a lot of attractive products.
And at what point in the process, sorry, go ahead, GT.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead. I'll piggyback on the next one. Go ahead, Scott.
At what point in the process should people communicate that concern to the contractor, that they want something that's a little bit more modern looking?
I think that's the earlier the better, because as we're giving them allowances and speccing materials, I think that's something that needs to be brought up early, because it will affect cost a little bit. And I'm certainly sympathetic to that we don't want an industrial or institutional look, but I also would add that the alternative is, if you don't have a grab bar and you get injured, I would much rather, it's like wearing a bike helmet. I would much rather have a functioning, less attractive option than I would not have anything at all. That being said, Andy is spot on. There are lots and lots and lots of products out there that will match all the trim in the bathroom, and you really don't know they're grab bars. You think it's a towel bar, or you think it's a toilet paper holder. So lots and lots of products out there, and I would just ask the contractor and whomever they partner with on probably in the bathroom situation on the plumbing fixture side.
Yep. That goes back to being finding a good contractor. Is they're going to want to know that too up front, so that they don't have to go back and redo work. And so a good contractor will try to get all those things sorted out early in the process as well.
So I'm going to go to the next slide. Being safe during COVID. As we're doing this Zoom presentation, we're all reminded that we're certainly going to be dealing with this for the foreseeable future. So I know some of the things that Andy and I have been doing. I'm sure we've been doing lots of virtual meetings when possible, like today. Initial meetings I think work well. If you're comfortable in that platform, sending pictures or doing a virtual meeting and kind of discussing with the contractor what problem you're trying to solve, what jobs you're thinking about doing. We've kind of utilized that, I think, fairly well. But at some point you will need to meet them in person and you're going to have to look at the work. So obviously whenever possible, meeting outside is great. And we all know that masking and social distancing and cleaning practices before and after. I think that's pretty commonplace at this point. But something, that we've certainly had feedback from with clients and we're always working on is kind of the safety measures while we're working in the homes or around the homes, and that we can do to protect our employees and protect our clients. And I know that, certainly we have tried to, and I know Andy has done this as well, we've talked about it, kind of minimize the amount of people we have on the job at a certain time. If we're doing a bathroom, we're certainly not going to have our employees, a plumber and electrician, all in the bathroom at the same time. We're going to try and avoid that and just try to plan as much as possible and keep a safe, defined workspace so we can keep our clients safe and our employees safe. So that goes back to the questions you're asking your contractor. We're pushing pretty hard right now that once we start our work, we'll give you updates and you can come look, but not while we're here. And we kind of want to keep that separation. We're also doing, a waiver that we're having our clients sign, just to kind of raise awareness that, hey, we are taking steps for this, but we want you to remember that you need to do that on your own, and you need to kind of respect the space and do what you can on your own to make sure the job site's safe. So it's a challenge, but I think that there's certainly ways to do it, and I think just being smart about it, I think you can get into someone's house right now and try and get some of these things done. I mean, we had a client a couple weeks ago that we had to put grab bars in. Not a great time to do it. I prefer not to do it, but back to the alternative is not having grab bars and falling when you get out of the shower. I'll go ahead and mask up and we'll put the bars up. So I think that's it.
And we are lucky to live in Iowa City and Iowa City area, where there are a bunch of great community resources available. They're at the county level and at the city level, and then there are a bunch of independent organizations. So starting with aging services up there at the top, that can take care of a lot of the basic chores around a home that become more difficult as we get older, with yard maintenance, snow removal, that type of thing. The city of Iowa City has quite a few different grants and programs for home repairs and modifications. Some are energy updates. There are historical ones. There's a wide variety of options there, and thankfully they have somebody there who can help you walk through that stuff, but maybe more there than you'd realize. And then at the Great Iowa City HBA, we do have a home modification grant for low-income residents, because we realize that is a challenge, of course, as well. And so if you were to contact Carol over there at the HBA, she could help you out with that. HACAP does a lot of great work in the area, including weatherization and utility expenses. So again, for our low-income seniors, that can be a wonderful resource. The Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County is kind of well, they are the trust fund, right? So they provide a bunch of funding for many programs, including forgivable loans, but that is an income qualified program as well. And then the Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity, that is Scott's wheelhouse there. And they do a lot of great work in the area, everything from grab bars on up to larger home repairs and modifications. Scott, do you want to talk about that at all, or?
Not specifically, but we'll consider anything from a smaller project, like Andy said, something like installing some grab bars or installing a better light in the backyard, all the way up to some modest bathroom remodels. So we'll consider just about anything.
Yeah, you do ramps as well, don't you?
Yeah, lots of ramps.
Yep. So there are a lot of great resources in the area. And then, of course, there are a lot of great remodelers in the area who would love to help out too. But this can help out in situations where the commercial option is not the best. So.
So our last slide, feel free to jump in, guys. This is just a list of our certified aging in place specialists, which is a designation that the National Home Builders Association, it's one of their educational classes, 3-part series that kind of walks you through challenges and solutions, to do aging in place remodels essentially. And what I think is neat about this list is yes, we obviously have Andy and myself and Scott on here, but you have some other remodelers and builders. You've got some realtors. You've got Scott kind of representing the Habitat for Humanity as well as kind of the remodeling industry. You guys are doing that, and it's good to see suppliers, realtors, and the people doing the work all working together to solve this problem, because it isn't, just a problem that I have to deal with or Andy deals with. So I love that we've got suppliers. Jenny on the bottom there, is someone that you could go to see some of these grab bars that are attractive or other solutions in the bathroom. We need everyone involved in the process to help, find the best path forward here. So it's neat to see that we've got this many people locally that are, trying to improve their education and try and help solve some of the problems involved with this.
I've got a question for either one of you may be able to answer this. So you guys have done a really thorough job of explaining what people should do before actually starting the project. What are some things that homeowners can do, realistic things that homeowners can do to make your lives a little bit easier and to make the project go a little bit smoother during the construction?
I like coffee and cookies is probably the best thing. I think communicating and raising concerns early on are big. I think being aware that you do have people working in your home. So to a degree, trying to be a host to them as well. I know that sounds odd, but if you have pets, you have children, you have visitors, you have deliveries, you're trying to let them do their jobs in the most efficient way possible. So making sure that you have a clear path, a spot for them to access wherever they're working, figured out where material goes, figured out the bathroom issue, access issue. If you've got a certain time that you can't be without, as you're working from home, internet, and you're doing a major house remodel where you're going to lose some power, those are, communicating all of that, but being aware that there are people trying to work there as well. So I think being proactive and making sure that you've got everything in order beforehand and during it is the best way to do it. Andy, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I always remind our guys that we're not just working on a job site, we are working in somebody's home. But I feel like the best clients have that in mind as well, that their home is not just their home, it's also a job site, so that they understand that there are some things they can do that way. It also helps if, like you said, you want to get concerns out early, but it helps to have them in an organized fashion as well. We try to set up weekly meetings, and so our good clients come to those meetings and are very prepared with their questions, and that is wonderful. But the idea that they are hosts is huge, and then appreciation is always really powerful thing. So it's funny how a simple thank you is a huge deal too. But these are everyday things.
Got a question from the audience here. Sonia would like to know, what is the standard door width? And maybe you can talk a little bit about the process to that you guys will go through to make sure that the door, if you do widen the door, what we do to make sure that the wheelchair or the walker will actually fit through that.
It'd be wonderful if there was a standard door width. What we like to see is a 36-inch wide door. That's pretty ideal. It's not such a huge door that it's awkward to deal with. You know, if you have a 42-inch door or something like that, they can be a little cumbersome. But you can easily get a walker or wheelchair through relatively easily get a walker or wheelchair through a 36-inch door, and it seems to work well.
And we've had clients in the past, I mean, every house is going to be different. The 36 inch is a standard residential door. I mean, that's probably what most people have on their front door. But we've had clients where you have, people are different sizes, wheelchairs are different sizes, and we didn't have the luxury without rebuilding the house of getting a 36-inch door in. So we've done, we'll almost do a mock-up and see if the client can get through with that width before we change the door, because every house is different and every remodel is different.
Yep. Yeah, a 32-inch door will work too. And then sometimes you can, depending on the circumstances, you can come up with an odd size and put a barn door over it or something like that. So every house is individual for sure.
You guys have talked about before, during it, and what will the process of once you complete the project, what will after construction be like? What type of follow-up can people expect? And yeah, can you guys just talk about that a little bit?
Well, typically, as you come to the conclusion of a project, you're doing your meetings, we have clients where we're trying to meet in person. We'll do virtual walkthroughs, but as we kind of get through and get the punch list items and have addressed all of their concerns, I think I would tell every client that they really should do a final walkthrough with the contractor and make sure they know how to use everything, the do's and don'ts of products, just kind of almost like when you buy a car, that final, hey, this is how you roll down the windows and make sure you don't do these types of things. So I think that's important. The final walkthrough is probably critical, and asking questions during that walkthrough to make sure you understand. And then I would hope that you had a fantastic experience with the contractor and you have a relationship that you're going to get a prompt response afterwards. If you do have a question, hey, a door seems to be sticking, or I have a question on a light switch, can you come answer that for me? And I think good contractors are going to take care of that right away. So I expect service after the sale is what I would push for that too. It's not just as soon as we're done with the bathroom or the ramp, like see you later, not call you back. So
yeah, and for bigger projects we offer a 1-year follow-up, so we'll go back and check on it. Hopefully with the grab bar you wouldn't need to do that, but certainly if we were to get a call, yeah, you'd hope your contractor would respond. I think you're muted, Scott.
Rookie mistake. We've only been doing this for 4 months and I'm still making rookie mistakes. All right, so that looks like that's about all the questions that we've got from the audience, and I don't see any questions on Facebook. So I guess we're gonna wrap this up a little bit early today. Jeff will have the PowerPoint available, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I have a couple more slides for you actually.
Okay.
Here. I figured we should do a little plug for the HBA here. They have their parade of homes coming up here next month. I don't know if Andy or GT have anything in particular you guys want to say about that.
We are excited about it. It's going to be an interesting parade this year, for sure. It's going to be a mix of virtual only parades and in-person parade homes. But the real exciting thing that thankfully we were on board with before coronavirus is that this year we will have a virtual parade. So all of the homes following that August 9th day will be available online for the full year. So you can go look through, and it's a really cool 3D tour. It's not just pictures. You can go in, and I've fiddled with this a little bit, from the user end, and it's pretty fun. You just go and you click on the screen, and you kind of virtually walk through the buildings, and you can look around and you can get different angles, and it's a pretty interesting process.
Terrific. Thank you, Scott. I see a couple of questions rolling
Yeah, it
in
looks like
here.
we've got a
Yep.
couple of new questions. So to respond to you, Hillary, Jeff will make available the slides one way or another. So we'll let him talk about that at the end. Another person, Sonia, is questioning step depth. And I guess the question is, how do you make sure that the depth of the steps are not too narrow, but also not too wide?
Well, there's code requirements for steps, but I would say specific questions for all of these. There are situations where you're going to be grandfathered in with certain things because you're not going to rebuild an entire house. So depending on municipalities, et cetera, there's going to be different interpretations, and we personally have that. I'm not super comfortable. I mean, we can talk about standard sizes, but the reality is, I would tell you, if you have a specific question, I would almost reach out and either do a virtual meeting with a contractor or send pictures, because there's going to be specifics unique to that job. That is, I don't want to tell you that you can do 10 inches or 12 inches and then get into a situation where that's just not the case, because you're not going to rebuild the entire house. And I saw the other one on payment schedules. We outline that, in our contract, and that goes back to keeping everything in writing. I think everything should be in that. The estimate, terms, materials used, project scope, payment schedule, deposits, et cetera, should all be in there. And I think most reputable contractors are going to have that pretty clearly spelled out, so there's not any surprises. I would not recommend paying everything up front, but I also understand that depending on scopes of work, people are not going to start a massive job without some sort of deposit or down payment. So I think that's something that each individual contractor can work through. But again, it needs to make sense for both parties. We have different payment terms based on the scope and the dollar amount.
Yeah, I think every contractor probably does it a little differently. I don't think there's a standard way. And certainly, like you were saying, depending on the scope of the job, it's going to vary too. But it should be spelled out, and it should make some sense.
Right.
We always try to tie it in on various phases of the job, but I've heard of people doing it, on percentage of completion or what have you. And, I think there's a variety of ways to do that, but it should be agreed upon up front and in writing.
Yep.
And I guess I see there might be another question, but just real quickly, for those of you that may have joined late, we will have this. This has been recorded today. Ty Coleman from City Channel 4 is recording this for us. Thankfully, we'll be able to play this whole thing in its entirety. Plus, all these slides, we will go ahead and make sure that they are emailed out to everybody who's registered. If you're not registered, my slide will be coming up next here. I guess I should just put it up here now. You can contact me. I can make sure to get you the slides or give you a link to where you can view this when it's able to be viewed. Scott, do you have anything else right now?
Yeah, we have a couple other questions, and Marianne, I don't have the answer to that. We'll see if we can get an answer to your question. She would like to know if there's a payment requirement for the Pareto homes this year. Andy or GT, do you know about that?
They're still selling tickets for in-person. I don't believe we're going to charge a fee to see the link after the parade is done.
Okay. And Becky would also like to know what you guys recommend on the number of estimates, and what's a good number to feel comfortable with.
Go ahead, Andy.
It doesn't hurt to get more than one. But I think if you were to get more than 3, you're probably wasting your time. Because, you might, one thing I've learned about estimates is that even if you have the same conversation with 3 different people, you're going to get 3 different estimates for scope of work.
Yep.
In addition. So they will never be, you'll never have the exact same terms. I've seen some really organized clients who have it nailed down pretty good, but even so, there's something that's going to be a little different. So, you'll never have a perfect apples to apples, but if you get 2 apples and you've got 1 orange, and you've got 2 beds that are at 20,000 and you've got 1 that's at 40, or you've got 2 that are at 40 and 1 that's at 20, you can you better take a good close look at those and see what the difference is, because there's almost undoubtedly a difference in the amount of work that's being done.
I would agree. And if you have huge disparities as you get multiple quotes, those are when you ask questions on why that is, to make sure that you're, getting some sort of apples to apples comparison. And I agree completely. Getting the same contractor after multiple conversations, or the same client to have 3 different contractors bid the exact same scope of work is an extremely challenging thing to do. So, but yeah, ask questions, and the huge disparities, there's got to be a reason for it. So I would try to do I would certainly ask the contractor why that is.
And we just got official word that the virtual tour is free for the Parade of Homes.
Thank you, Carol.
Again, thank you, Karr. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, questions, please keep them coming. We have a few minutes left before 1 o'clock and we close this thing down officially. But just to let you know again, August 12th is Gadgets to Make Life Easier. September 9th is Not Starting to Declutter. It will be estate planning. And October 14th will be housing options when deciding to downsize. You can contact me if you have any questions about registering for those. Otherwise, we have a Sign Up Genius link for that. Anything else that we have today, folks? It looks like we're good to go. Again, thank you, GT, Andy, and Scott. You guys are awesome today. Appreciate your expertise, wisdom, and helping out so many folks today.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
Scott and GT.
Take care, all. Look forward to seeing you in, gosh, what is it? It's August next month. My gosh. All right. We'll see you in August. Thanks so much.
Bye.